What's going on, guys? Good morning. Welcome back to United View. Hope everyone is doing very well. Welcome back to another edition of the Morning View. Yes, Monday morning is upon us. The day after, the night before, the afternoon before, the evening before, the World Cup final before. Oh, what a game. We're going to be talking about that this morning. We're going to be talking about Glazer takeover, Avram Glazer in Qatar. Talking to some potential investors, some Saudi investors, some Qatari investors. We're going to be talking about, as I mentioned, the World Cup final. We're going to be talking about the return of club football. We're going to be talking about a little bit about Alejandro Garnacho this morning. We're going to talk a little bit about Cody Gakpo. There's plenty to get into this morning. So be sure to smash a like on the like button. Be sure to subscribe, bottom right-hand corner. Remember, you can join the UV Members Club. Links in the video description. It's also the pinned comment in the live chat. You get your badges, your emojis. Plenty of new emojis have been added, Marcel, including Hopium, which Marcel is regularly addicted to, especially with club football coming back. That's in there as well, and you get your exclusive members-only content too. Marcel, how are you doing on this dark and cold Monday morning?
Yeah, I mean, after yesterday's World Cup, I was just saying to you off air, about your watch-along and how crazy that extra time was that you done, because boy, oh boy, I mean, after about 70, 80 minutes, I'm thinking it's, Messi all the way, kumbaya, nice and easy towards, a World Cup victory. Then Mbappe hits two, a brace out of nowhere. Imagine scoring a hat-trick in a World Cup final and still not being awarded the trophy. And I was just watching you go absolutely ballistic.
I've blown out my voice once already in this tournament, and I thought I was going to do it again. I was like, oh my God, what a game. We're going to get into all of it this morning, guys. Don't you worry. We're going to be having that discussion as well about who is the GOAT, who is the greatest of all time, which I'm sure won't polarize opinion whatsoever at all. No problem. But before we get into today's edition of the Morning View, as always, this show is brought to you by Fresh Ego Kid. Fresh Ego FC will be, for the third year, facilitating their annual Community Giveback for Campaign for Change to provide an essential hamper and gifts to families from low-income, vulnerable and at-risk families. This year, Fresh Ego FC is partnering with Anthony Joshua's charity, Clean Herts Community. This year, especially with global inflation and fuel poverty, those families, along with other families, will struggle to provide the basics this Christmas. Last year, through donations, Fresh Ego FC was able to give back to 120 families. This year, they expect to be supporting more than 350 families. So as we always say, guys, a really well-worthy cause. There is some last-minute dates for you still to get involved. There is still time to get involved. But before we give you those dates and details, here's a message from Anthony Joshua for more details.
What's happening, people? I hope you're good. So the festive period is fast approaching. And what I've come to realize is that a lot of people are actually unsure on how to kind of connect with communities and give back. So what I've done is my organisation have teamed up with another organisation to do some projects where we're going to be doing community work and spending time in communities and doing some give back projects, right? So we want to raise some funds, we want to get some items, because it's going to be rolled out across the whole year as well. This ain't just a one-stop shop. So if you want to get involved, follow the link, follow the Instagram page, the social pages for more info, and your help will be appreciated. We'll be there, I'll be there. It'll be a big community day. Don't worry about that, Leaf. And yeah, we appreciate your support fully, yeah? God bless, be safe, and I'll catch up with you all soon.
Yes, a really important cause, especially as we're in this holiday festive period right now, especially with it being as cold as it is. Thankfully, it's warming up. Still, people can't even afford to turn on the heating or turn their lights on or even buy food for their families this Christmas. So if you do want to get involved, links in the video description. You can donate your money, your time, or just find out more information. It's there as well. They are going to be handing out, I believe, these sort of care packages to these families on December the 23rd. If you want to get involved in that and putting the packages together or delivering them, all that information is in the video description. As I mentioned, guys, really well-worthy cause. Marcel, actually, we've got a super chat before we even get into it. Things this morning. Amanor says, Owen, will there be a full view on tonight, please? There will not be one this evening. We're still kind of transitioning from World Cup schedule back into club football schedule. Flex is actively traveling at the moment. And to do the full view, we need the full panel. So the full view is going to be coming back. I've seen all of the comments. I've seen all the requests going, when is the full view coming back? When's the Flexes and KG show coming back? When's all of it coming back? Club football is coming back. So all of it is coming back. Don't you worry. But Marcel, we've got to talk about takeovers. Yes, because I don't know if you saw this the other day. Avram Glazer, I guess with everyone else, was out there in Qatar to watch the final few stages of the World Cup. And apparently during this trip over to Qatar, Avram Glazer, this comes from David Ornstein from The Athletic, has held talks with potential investors during his trip to Doha for the World Cup. This includes potential investors from Saudi Arabia and Qatar. Now, the nature of those talks between Glazer and different groups he met in Doha is not currently clear. But what is clear is that the Rain Group, who are acting as Manchester United's exclusive financial advisor, is aiming for a full sale of the club in the first quarter of 2023, which, by the way, Marcel, isn't that far away. It's not that far away. It's just around the corner. So when you hear that he's having discussions and possible meetings with investors out there in Doha from Qatar, from Saudi, do you still have any preference on the kind of owner or the kind of people you would like to be owning Manchester United, or is your mindset of as long as it's not the Glazers, it's okay?
Yeah, anyone, you know, a lot of people say better the devil you do than the devil you don't, but anyone that's not the Glazers right now, surely as Man United fans will be supporting that. So I'm not bothered what consortium it is, if it's another, you know, American consortium or if it's, you know, Middle Eastern based. Doesn't matter to me as long as they're ready to develop the club in the manner that it should be done, you know, to compete with the best in the country. Otherwise, there's no issue really for me. I mean, as early as the first quarter of next year is interesting. I don't think it gets taken over as early as next year, but in the first quarter anyway. I mean, I think it's still something that maybe looks to 6-7 months down the road, and it gets done hopefully in the summer so that we can start making, you know, good business decisions during the summer window. But I don't care who it is. I think it'd be better if it is a Saudi consortium, because they, you know, I can imagine them wanting to be the best in class and immediately, you know, them having that kind of culture of wanting to develop the club straight away. It benefits us massively. Whereas, you know, another consortium might want to have some sort of process of in which they start to build the club, and that might take a little bit longer. So we'll see what happens.
I think obviously with these you know, with Qatari or Saudi or, you know, the Middle Eastern ownership, or just a lot of different kind of ownership, obviously there's a lot of scrutiny that comes with that. And I would say that unfortunately with that kind of thing, Pandora's box has kind of already been opened, because you've already got, you know, Abu Dhabi ownership at Manchester City. You've already got Saudi ownership at Newcastle. You've already got Qatari ownership at PSG. So again, Pandora's box has kind of already been opened when it comes to that. I'm quite surprised actually by the pace in which this is happening. My thought process always was, it's not going to be as fast as, say, Chelsea, because Chelsea, they were actively selling the club against a counting clock. They had to get it done by a certain point. Otherwise, the club wasn't going to have a license to operate. So that there was a real chance they would cease to exist. And if that was the case, they had to be really, really careful. So they had to get it done quickly. And I thought, well, that Chelsea takeover is somewhat atypical. So we can't look at that time frame of how quickly United is going to be sold. But if the Rain Group are saying, oh, we want to get it done by the first quarter of next year, I mean, that's basically saying by April, it'll be done. And that's fast. And that makes me think that, okay, so they're saying by April, the end of the first quarter of next year, that's going to be done. And we're talking about a transaction that could be worth 5, 6, 7, maybe 8 or 9 billion pounds. And you're saying you're going to get that done in what, 4 months? To me, that says to me that must be already done then. There must be an offer on the table, or there must be a general consensus as to who this person or people or consortium is. Because to do a multi-billion pound transaction, an asset transfer that big, and remember all the other parts of it as well. It's not just here's the money. It's, well, I've got to pay off the debt, and we've got to make sure that the I's are dotted and the T's are crossed. You know, just the admin alone, right? Or the due diligence alone on a deal or transaction that big, you're saying you're going to get it done in 4 months. That process has to be, I mean, he said it a million times, isn't he? The process. That process has to be way further down the line than anyone expected, in my opinion, to be looking to be done that quickly, is it not?
Yeah, I don't think that's gonna be something that takes, you know, it's such a huge amount of money, like you're saying, you know, it's a vast amount of money for that transaction to happen in the first quarter of next year, it will be quite impressive. And like you said, the ball must have been rolling already, and we're just catching up. The media, it's just we're just playing catch up to the news. Otherwise, it's a process. We still haven't found out who it is that's going to be the main front runner for this role. So we'll see what happens, man. I'm looking forward to just getting rid of the Glazers. I don't care however it's done. We get rid of them and we start again. We start afresh, and there's new horizons for the club. I was just reading a little bit the other day about Klopp mentioning how he can't compete with the likes of Newcastle and City. They have no ceilings. Certain clubs have ceilings, which is quite an interesting thing to think about, in terms of the competitiveness for the league, going forward.
Yeah.
So I feel like this is a great pivot point for us. Do we stay with a club that potentially has a ceiling? Are we going to get rid of this debt and then go maybe to a consortium where there is no ceiling? How does that change the dynamic of our club? What direction does that take us in? Are we going to be having that, that Abu Dhabi Saudi consortium kind of money where there's not that much limit to what you can do in the market? And does that mean we get better players, bigger players? Am I looking too far ahead, or is it something where it could be limiting having a different chairman?
Yeah, I mean, it's a weird one, isn't it? Because I think when people see this story, like they see, Avram Glazer had talks with Saudi investors and Qatari investors, people on social media, I suppose rightfully so, money, loads of money. And obviously, look, money's part of it, and it's great to have owners that have, and I was reading, and I think we've all watched this over the course of the World Cup, where they sort of talk about that wealth that maybe some, Qatari ownership or Saudi ownership or, Middle Eastern ownership, shall we say, offers you. And they say you almost can't actually quantify it. It's wealth on an astronomical scale. Like, they're not on lists. You know what I mean? It's it's another sort of plateau. And you go, well, that obviously that would be it'd be amazing to have that Manchester United. But it's not necessarily just about the money. It's also about how the club operates, and it's about the vision as well, and it's about the planning. As I've said before, we are at this point in terms of how we operate. If you just look across the city, if you look at Manchester City, we are like a minimum like a decade behind them in terms of the way their infrastructure, just the way the club operates, the hierarchy at the club, everyone in the right positions. Everything's built around Pep Guardiola's vision for football, but also the investment in the community, the investment in their academy stadium. Their academy stadium is better than some Premier League stadiums. It's ridiculous. And right behind that, they've got an indoor arena that's being built. The Carp Arena. Like, it's ridiculous. And that's just facilities, let alone, again, infrastructure, what they've got. So it's great. Whoever comes in at United, if it is someone, let's say it's someone from, I don't know, say it's someone from Dubai, right? It's Dubai. They've bought Manchester United. Great. You go, okay, we've got the money, but as Richard Arnold has said, we've burnt through cash before. It's about what are you spending on? How can you convince us as fans you're spending it on the right things, and we're not just throwing money at the issue once again, we're throwing money at the right aspects of it once again. That's the key thing involved in all of this. So money's great, but what's the vision? My concern is the Glazers could give a damn about the future vision of Manchester United as long as that money goes firmly in their pocket. So whilst we can get excited, and you have to get excited, and as I've said before, talking about the summer and talking about transfers and all that kind of stuff, I do think legitimately, and I'm not being facetious when I say this, I think there's a lot to be positive about Manchester United at the moment when it comes to the long-term future. I really do think there's a lot to be positive about. I think we've got a good coach. I think we've got good players. The ownership's going to change. Lord knows we've wanted that for nearly 2 decades. So there's a lot to be really positive about United, but there is still this element in me that's like, I'm not going to get too carried away right now, because we're so close, Marcel. We're so close that I don't want to get carried away.
Nah, you need to, man. I think this is positive news for the club. This is positive news for fans. We as fans need to get positive, man, because we've been dragged through the mud the last couple of seasons. It's been horrible. Chairman, they never come to the stadium to even watch the team. We've just been dragged through the mud as a club, and now there's finally a glimpse of massive changes coming ahead. Ten Hag's on board with it. Ten Hag, and the board are on board with what Ten Hag wants. They've been the last few signings have been Ten Hag signings. The way that we're doing business is, let's see what Ten Hag wants, and we'll try and deliver it for him. even overpriced. They've even gone as far as going over and above just to get his players. Obviously, deliberating a lot on it, but I think this is a good direction that the club's going. And as long as I'm fully in the Ten Hag we trust camp, have to be fully backed into that, because if we can continue in this process, I think there's chances that we can develop and be straight back to the top where we're meant to be.
Yes, I mean, look, again, I do legitimately think there is a lot to be positive about. Like I said, I really, really do. And I even think, despite, because now that club football's coming back, that, make no mistake, between now and the end of the season, there's going to be rough moments again. There's going to be rough moments. Like there have been a couple of times already this season where you go, oh, here we go, Man United. There's going to be that. But you've got to keep trying to look as far forward as you possibly can, even though it's tough to, and go, look, we're going to have new owners. We've got a good manager. It's going to take time to improve the playing squad. It's going to take even longer to improve, again, the facilities and the infrastructure and everything else that comes with it. That does not get done overnight. It really doesn't. Sure, there can be quick fixes, and I'm sure there will be quick fixes, cosmetically, shall we say, at Old Trafford, and cosmetically when it comes to the playing squad. But long term, there is a lot to be positive about with Manchester United, but it's going to take time. And again, it needs to just... I think we need to try and be as positive as possible and try and just, not get too, bogged down in sort of the day-to-day with United. Because I think over this January, I think the January window is going to be really tough for United. And I don't think it's going to go the way that a lot of United fans want. I think that at a push, we'll get one. I don't know who that one will be. I hope it's an attacker. I hope it's Cody Gakpo. We'll talk about him later on. But we have to also hold ourselves to reality that we might get to the end of January. It might be a bizarre loan that we've like, what on earth was that? It might be that, and we'll complain and we'll go, it's the Glazers and blah blah blah. Yeah, it is, but it'll be the last thing they ever do when it comes to a transfer window. And if that's what it takes, that's what it takes. That's kind of my mindset on it at the moment. I don't know about you, Marcel.
Nah, well said. And I think even if it might even be a recall loan. It might even be a Diallo or Ethan Laird from QPR on loan back, plus one maybe very cheap signing just to get you through for 6 months and until summer to start again and start the plan again. It's going to be difficult. And then the games are coming thick and fast as well. I mean, by the way, every 3 days, every 4 days is a game as well. 6 games, I think, in January, 7 games. It's crazy. It's a very busy schedule and a thin squad. We've seen as fans the drop off in quality from that Casemiro, Eriksen, Bruno to whoever comes on next. It's a massive drop in that midfield. You're almost going back to McFred at times. So it's going to be an interesting season for us. We need some youth players to come in and step up. And we need to make sure that consortium is sorted by summer, summer or into the final quarter of the year next year. That would be the dream scenario, really.
Be sure to smash a like on the like button, guys. Got over 400 people watching. Less than 100 likes, we can get to 150. Easy, like that. Thanos style. Bang. Snap it. It didn't go to 150 when I snapped my fingers. I hoped it would. It will. I trust all of you. So be sure to smash a like on the like button. Be sure to subscribe, bottom right-hand corner as well. Marcel, there was a little game on last night called the FIFA World Cup Final in Qatar. And as you can see right there, Lisandro Martinez has a World Cup winners medal. We've got 2 centre-backs. Our 2 centre-backs are World Cup winners. We've got Varane, who was on the losing end last night, and we've got Martinez. Not a bad pair. And I don't know if you saw, they were embracing each other afterwards as well, giving each other hugs. It must be said, and we were chatting before we went live, and now is the best place to talk about it. And let us know in the live chat if you agree or you disagree. Certainly, it's the best World Cup final I've ever watched in my lifetime. But just in general, from football history, that's got to be right up there as the best World Cup final ever, does it not?
Wow, what a game of football that is! We were saying it off air. We just said it a little bit before. Literally, for majority of that game, I thought the game was going in one and only direction. Messi all the way, guaranteed his kumbaya to Messi. We're just singing and his praises for about 70 minutes, 75 minutes of that game. France looked like they didn't have a kick. And then
they were awful. 80 minutes. Yeah. They were. I mean, it's the worst I've seen France play throughout the entire tournament. I tell you what, that virus was really bad because they were shocking. Like Mbappe didn't touch the ball for 80 minutes.
It's crazy. It's completely crazy. Shout out to Deschamps, by the way, though. He's special. He's a special manager. We're talking about Southgate and making big decisions and big moments. He says, I'm taking players off 40 minutes in. It's not working. The rules, you're not good enough. You're playing poorly. Come off. and he puts on what's Kalani his name, the right winger.
So he took off Giroud and he took off Dembele, who was awful. It made me more positive for Man United versus Barcelona in February, actually, because I looked at that and went, Dembele, are you kidding me? So he took him off. He put on Thuram and Kolo Muane, and Kolo Muane was brilliant when he came on. Absolutely sensational when he came on. But even that, like you said, big subs, but it still took like 40 minutes for them to get back into the game. And you know what the turning point was? The turning point was, and this is what happens if you don't start Lisandro Martinez, the turning point was Otamendi with that stupid foul to give away the penalty. Who was on? Was it on Kolo Muane? I think it might have been. And it's a stupid foul to give away. It's a clear penalty. It's a lazy penalty to give. He gets in behind, and you can tell Otamendi thinks, I'll just give away the penalty because we're 2-0 up. It doesn't matter. And Mbappe scored, and he just woke up. It's like his eyes opened up, and he went, he smelt the blood in the water. 90 seconds later, Marcel, he scores another one. And to score the second goal that he scored, which is not an easy technique, by the way, not an easy technique. I mean, we're going to have the conversation in a second about who's the greatest, who's the best. But I tell you what, who's an heir to the throne as to be the best player of this generation, Kylian Mbappe, come the end of his career, is going to be right up there. People that can talk about, he's a pace merchant, this, that, and the other. He put his country on his back, his team on his back in a World Cup final when his team was underperforming. He scored a hat trick and they didn't win. I mean, you've got to give him credit, don't you?
A hat trick. You scored a hat trick in a match and didn't win the World Cup final, and changed the whole dynamic of the game in about 90 seconds to more, maybe 120 seconds. Literally scores the penalty, which, by the way, he was laughing at Harry Kane's miss. I remember that. And he bags 3 or 2 in a finals. He bags 2 or 3 pens in a finals. I think it was 2. Plus the 2 penalties
and plus the penalty shootout was 3. Yeah.
Oh, so it's just crazy, the nerve of this man. I couldn't believe it. Not the best penalties, admittedly. And Martinez, by the way, as well. Martinez. We're talking about goalkeepers. Martinez.
Not bad, was he? Yeah. It was
Martinez
good. In this game. And because people will remember, like we just talked about,
Messi had a shot at the end.
Exactly.
To win the game, Owen.
And it's Martinez, not even a bad miss. It's a good save. There's a difference.
Yeah. I gotta put my hands up. This guy's on fire. And the penalty shootouts he's had as well in the other games. We've seen some good goalies, and that World Cup altogether anyway has been fantastic. But that final really just epitomized it, Owen. And for Messi, and Messi scores again in extra time, and you're thinking it's all done now. There's no way back. Never big penalty for Mbappe to take. Then Kolo Muane gets the chance to make it 4-3 and win the game in extra time still to get business done. Also, another really good moment was 2 of the big players, both number 10s, taking their first penalties, scoring the first penalties. It was just a really, really goated final. That is a serious final that we just watched yesterday, and well deserved to Argentina. Like you said, like you mentioned, 2 World Cup centre backs next to each other now. Our team just looking stronger and stronger. It's growing in strength. We've seen a lot of Ten Hag signings come through as well this World Cup. So just a brilliant World Cup final.
I mean, it literally, again, in terms of a game, it had everything. I mean, it really did have everything. And again, I know people talk about, this is what is bizarre sometimes I find with football fans, is like you have a conversation about anyone, whether it's a player, a manager, a moment. There's always in people's minds, there's always an asterisk over it. There's always, but this, you know what I mean? You go, Mbappe, unbelievable. Yeah, but he's just a pace merchant. You go, Messi, and you go, he's overrated. He's only playing good sides. Like, we just got to hold your hands up sometimes, guys. You've got to hold your hands up and say, I tell you what, they're good. They're good. Mbappe's good. Yeah. Messi's unbelievable. He's in that conversation as being the greatest player of all time. Clearly he is. He's won everything. And it wasn't just like, Argentina won last night and Messi barely touched the ball. He got carried through the game. He scored 2 goals. This tournament, he's been excellent. Like, he really has. Yeah. We've seen Messi play for Argentina in World Cups in the past, and he has sort of ghosted through and you go, well, he wasn't actually that good. But throughout this whole tournament, he scored goals when it mattered. He stepped up when it mattered. I mean, it felt like, and this is how wild the final was, that when he did score in extra time, he thought they've won it. He thought he'd won it. Yeah. They were crying, Yeah. And then again, France go up the other end and score from a penalty. It must be said though, that first penalty, the Dembele trip on Di Maria, did you think that was a penalty?
Nah. Listen, throughout this whole tournament, Messi's had a few light ones. I'll be so honest. Messi's had a few easily awarded penalties given to him, but he still had to go and deliver in the moment.
Yeah,
so and that takes a task. We've seen other players, you know, bottle under that pressure. It's a difficult moment to score, and when you have to score, and Messi's built for that, man. He's built for those moments, clearly, evidently, and he's putting away big penalties. But I didn't think it was a bit too light. I don't even think Dembele even touched him much, Di Maria. But Di Maria in that half was outstandanding, by the way. That's another player that you got.
Literally, he played like 60 minutes. He was brilliant. He was incredible. It was just,
I'm thinking, wow, this is not the Di Maria I've seen at United for sure. But again, just another fantastic performance from him. And then he's off after about 60 or 70 minutes. And then it's like, we need him back because France are taking this game and they look like they were going to be in the ascendancy definitely before 90 minutes and maybe even beyond. So, yeah, but just shout out to that, to everyone that played in that game. It was a massive game and amazing game.
What almost worried me actually is that the players that played badly for France were actually the older players, more experienced players, and they all came off. And that team that sort of finished the game for France was a really young team, and they're all quality. Like they bring on Camavinga, he was unbelievable. Kingsley Coman, he's still really, really young. He's phenomenal. They brought on Fofana from Monaco. He's very good too. Like, you know, Kolo Muane, Thuram, Mbappe. Like, it was frightening. That team ended the game for France. And you just think, like, it's not even a case of, oh, now France have run their race for the next few years. No, they're the favourites for the Euros. They're one of the favourites for the next World Cup because their team's so young and it's only going to get better. So, I don't know. It had everything. It really did have everything. Aminor with the super chat says, Marcel, would you have Martinez at Manchester United? It's an easy answer, Marcel, isn't it?
Yes, and yes. That's a very, very simple question. And he's delivered. He's delivered at Old Trafford as well at times. And he's got that shithousery about him as well. A few of our players have got that. You know,
see what he did with his award.
Yeah. Oh my days. Yeah,
and the best thing, there's that sort of Qatari official behind him going,
yeah. and then he acted in a more, you know, respectful manner as well after. That's jokes. But just how he is celebrating after every penalty save and every penalty miss or whatever the opponents do it. He loves the game. You can tell he loves the game. He's passionate about the game, and would be a good asset to our team, man.
Look, I mean, the only issue with Emi Martinez, isn't it, is that he is 30. So where's the longevity there? I mean, and that's the thing for him is his story's so great. His story is fantastic because, again, a guy that did leave home really, really young to go to Arsenal, and then for near enough like a decade, don't play. You know, goes out on loan. The amount of loans he had, I think Oxford, Reading, and still eventually gets his opportunity. Then decides, you know what, I'm going to leave because I want to carry on playing. Goes to Villa, and he's a really good goalkeeper. For our United, you'd maybe just say, look, he's probably a little bit too old at this point. But look, goalkeepers, it's a longer career. He wouldn't be on as much as David De Gea, I don't think. I wouldn't be against that one. I'll be honest, I wouldn't be against that one because I do think he's a good keeper in terms of his hands and stuff like that as well. So. But I think at this point, Aston Villa, they're not struggling for money. That costs a lot of money.
Okay.
It would.
A quick question then. What about Croatia's keeper? Because I was just about to say the third place playoff game was a decent game. Yeah. And what about Croatia or Morocco's keeper? They're two good keepers. What do you think about them?
I would also say we need to be careful about just buying players based off of one World Cup tournament, because we have seen that about just players in general. You know, yes, there are players coming out of that tournament, like from Morocco, like Amrabat or and Wani,
number 8,
really, stuff like players like that. You go, but at the same time, you don't want to get too carried away. Marcel. Just before we move on, though, with Messi winning the World Cup, people like to talk about the GOAT, and I hate this conversation anyway because it's never settled and it never will be settled. But do you think it makes the argument a lot easier now? The fact that he's won everything, he's won a World Cup with his country.
Yeah, he is. He has to be. Yeah, the type of football that he plays is just too unique. You just cannot be replicated, and he's won every single thing there is to win in the game. You know, and it took you know their Argentina's biggest maverick in Diego Maradona for him literally to pass on the torch to Messi to be down as the greatest of all time now, and just a really befitting moment coming towards the end of your career. The last time you can really be at your best, your fullest of powers. You know, I think we're going to see a decline maybe in the next 2 or 3 years. But You know, he's by far, you know, especially in his prime, was just unplayable. You know, it was just scary to play games against Barcelona because yes, they've got Xavi and Iniesta, but they've got Messi as well that can just do anything. And yeah, he's proven it now. The World Cup, once you win the World Cup, there's no debate. There can be no debate.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, there's this whole conversation anyway. I'm like, because it's just, everyone's got their opinions, and it's, by the way, it's not just Messi and Ronaldo. There's also Diego Maradona involved in it. There's also Pele involved in it. You know, there's plenty of players that are in that bracket, in that conversation. Of course, when it comes to Messi and Ronaldo, their stats and their longevity is far superior than anyone else, and I think that's part of the conversation clearly too. But after yesterday and after the tournament as well, you have to remember that Messi did this at 35.
Yeah.
He's 35, and again, it's not as if Argentina carried him through the tournament. Like, there are points in this tournament that Messi carried him through, and that is really staggering to see. And you know, whenever again people have that conversation, well, Ronaldo's done this or Messi's done that, the conversation will now be, well, did they win a World Cup? You know, and you go, well, you know, when it comes to Pele and Maradona, they have. Pele won more than anyone else. You know what I mean? Especially even at a young age. Maradona, he carried his country to the second World Cup in their history. Now Messi's done that. I mean, we're talking about, you know, the elite of the elite is what we're talking about. And it's just even if you're not there, Marcel, at the game watching him, it's just a privilege to watch all of these players during this period and say, you know, I got to experience that just by watching it vicariously on the TV, let alone inside the stadium, right? It's a privilege.
Yeah, 100%. This has maybe been the most, because, you know, without Messi doesn't get to that level without Ronaldo being who Ronaldo was as well. You know, I think you have to understand that, and I don't think there's ever been that level of fierce competition between a great, you know, GOAT and two GOATs in one era. Like, I don't think it's ever been that competitive. And like you said, the longevity of it as well, being able to stay fit and be consistent every single season, both of them very close. It's an amazing achievement for both players, and it's something that, like you said, you know, even if you was able to just watch them season in, season out in this era, you've been blessed. Well, it's scary because I think it sets a precedent now. Young footballers are going to dream of that kind of high level, elite level competition, and you're almost seeing it manifest in Mbappe and Haaland now. Automatically, we're already maybe being did another, you know, massive football conundrum with two greats in one era. So, you know, it's going to be exciting. You know, we're excited to see that potentially manifest again. But just the way it's never really been so unique and at the top level, Ballon d'Or for Ballon d'Or almost, Champions League for Champions League almost. If Mbappe and Haaland can create something near that, you know, you just mentioned to your point before, Mbappe's near that and he will be in and around that greatness. If Haaland can manage to solidify something like that, then we are in for another good 10 or so years. But the Messi Ronaldo era has been profound in so many different ways. So serious stuff.
You'd probably say with Mbappe, again, seeing how he's performed in this tournament and how occasionally you've seen him on glimpses and flashes, you would say to get into that conversation now, Kylian, you've probably got to leave PSG. You know what I mean? Because are you going to win a Champions League at PSG? They've had literally the players they've still yet to do it. They've had Messi, they've had Neymar, they've had Mbappe, they've had Ibrahimovic, they've had Cavani, they've had, you know, list them all. They've had Sergio Ramos. You know, they've had some of the greatest players to ever play, and they've still yet to win that Champions League. And you know, you would probably say to Mbappe, you know, you probably do have to go to Real Madrid, or you do have to come to England, or you've got to do, you know, something different to really, again, get to those levels. That's maybe what you've got to do next. But I think he's the heir to the throne in terms of the player of this generation, because, like I said, it's the bottle it takes to get a hat-trick in a World Cup final. Second only player to ever do it. So Jeff Hurst was the only other one. First player to score a hat-trick and lose the final, by the way, as well. You know, it's insane. It really is. VK has been a member for 6 months. Appreciate 6 months of support. VK says, let's not forget how many times Messi has paid out of his own pockets for Argentina. It's also his humanity besides football supremacy, guys. There you go. But as I mentioned, that whole debate with the greatest player of all time, that's going to be something that continues to go on, especially around, I guess, this Christmas period. Everyone's got their families together. Who's the greatest ever? You get the granddad going, in my day, I tell you what, Pele. Then you get like, I don't know, the dad going, well, actually, no, Maradona. Then you got the kid going, no. I'm telling you, it's Messi or Ronaldo. You know, that's football. That's part of it, isn't it? You know, that is what it is. Be sure to smash a like on the like button, guys. Be sure to subscribe as well, bottom right-hand corner. The latest on Cody Gakpo, Marcel, I hear you ask. I've got answers for you because the Mirror is reporting that Erik ten Hag has told Cody Gakpo he sees him as the perfect replacement for Cristiano Ronaldo, and he could, get this, Marcel, he could even take over the number 7 shirt from Ronaldo. Ten Hag is banking on his relationship with Cody Gakpo because there's a bit of a prior relationship people might not know about. Of course, they share the same agent. Of course, they're Dutch. Of course, they spoke over the summer. But actually, he was at one point the assistant manager of PSV Eindhoven, Erik ten Hag, about a decade ago. And during that period of time, he was heavily involved in the academy in which Cody Gakpo was a part of. At the time, he would have been, 13? So I don't know how much this report is really accurate. But it says Ten Hag worked with Gakpo when he was in charge of the PSV academy more than a decade ago and maintained a friendship with the player and his family during his emergence as one of the Eredivisie's top performers. Is that something you like to hear, Marcel? Do you like to hear that actually, you know, there's more of a relationship there than meets the eye?
Yeah, so just on the top of the conversation, when we look at Ten Hag players, beyond Ten Hag actually wanting them originally, there was not much speculation, especially on my behalf, of these kind of players, Gakpo, Malacia. So when we're hearing now that, you know, that they're getting number 7 shirts, you know, legendary shirts, legendary Man United shirts, and that kind of thing. Okay, you know, it's you've got to back the manager. I've got to believe that a player can fulfill that kind of demand that shirt has. But you know, he's a good player so far. We've seen him contribute in the World Cup massively. You know, talking about carrying teams, he's done that in moments for Holland during this World Cup. So looks like a good player and still has a lot to learn. But I don't know. It looks like good news, but number 7 shirt. I thought originally that was for Anthony or Sancho. You know, they were in line for that. But
you can't give Cody Gakpo the number 7.
Yeah,
I mean, I know you're desperate for him to join, and you're trying everything because there are other clubs interested. There is Real Madrid, there is Bayern Munich, there is Liverpool, there is Arsenal, and let's face it, you have to, you know, take a step back, Marcel. We can be as positive as we want to be. They're more attractive options than United at the moment. Factually, they are. Arsenal top of the league. Liverpool have won stuff more recently. I know they're struggling this season, but you've still got, you know, a team that's won stuff and a fantastic manager, and Jurgen Klopp, possibly Jude Bellingham going there in the summer. Real Madrid, champions of Europe. They'll probably be there or thereabouts again. Bayern Munich, they'll win the Bundesliga, maybe the Champions League. So and we're not even in the Champions League at the moment, and we don't know if we're going to be next season. So all we've got, and this is why it's kind of music to my ears that there's more of a relationship there, because I was talking about this yesterday. All we've got for Cody Gakpo is how good is that relationship? It's like in the summer, isn't it? It's like Lisandro Martinez. It's like Lisandro Martinez. It's like Anthony. What's the relationship? And obviously, we knew the relationship was good because he'd played with under Erik ten Hag, or they'd played under Erik ten Hag before. But this time, we're like, is it really that strong? Yeah, they've got the same agent. Yeah, they're Dutch. Yeah, there were conversations in the summer, but that's what we're relying on. So if there's something more there and there's a relationship with the family from when they were younger, then maybe, just maybe. But number 7, let's not get desperate. Let's not be like, we'll give you number 7, because that's too much, isn't it?
It's too much. It's way too much too early. I think that's a legendary shout-out club. I think, you know, there's a couple ahead of him that are doing things right now to potentially get that shirt. But I would still say, you know, I would rather spend a lot of money on, I say, a João Felix and give him the number 7 shirt before I give a Gakpo and the number 7 shirt, which is also a crazy thing to do to say right now. But
Exactly.
You know. Yeah, but João Felix is clearly a level above a Gakpo at the moment, you know, in terms of ability. I think what he could potentially bring to our side. But again, he would have to earn it. But I don't know. This Gakpo's it's a bit of a stretch giving him the number 7 shirt too. So
I just say wait. I just say, you know, wait till the end of the season. I mean, to your point, there's several people at the club clearly that want it. You know, when Sancho first came, he wanted number 7. That's why he's 25. It's 2 + 5. You know, that's why he's got that number, because it's technically 7. He wants it. You know that Anthony will want it as well. And who knows who will get in the summer? They'll want it too. So I think it might be, you know, use it as a motivating tool. If you're Ten Hag, say to those players, you know, if you want it, earn it. Come the end of the season, no one's getting it now. It's a huge shirt at United because of the icons that have worn it. You know, Best, Robson, Ronaldo, Beckham. The list goes on and on. So because of that, you know, let's wait, earn it. Earn your spot, not only earn your spot, but earn your shirt. And if you don't, I'll bring someone in the summer and I'll give it to them. Or even Cody Gakpo say, you're going to come in for now. But I tell you now, if you can get us into the top 4, we'll have that conversation about that shirt come the end of the summer. You know, do it like that. At the moment, let the shirt rest. The shirt rest. There's been too much going on with it.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. You know, wait for somebody, get the world-class player in, guaranteed world-class player in, or just wait for somebody to earn the shirt. You know, we should have had Gakpo in ages ago. So Gakpo shouldn't really have had this shirt anyway. He should have been in, you know, for whatever it was touted to be 30-odd million during the summer. If the club were really fully backing Ten Hag efficiently, we should have got Gakpo in early. We now have to go over the odds. Now we're competing against other teams because other teams have caught on to what Ten Hag's been able to understand a little while ago. It's, you know, we're in a little bit of a situation. So I wouldn't give him that pressure. He's already going to have the financial pressure of the price being double or triple of what it was originally meant to be, plus the number 7 shirt, and you haven't proven anything at the club. It won't make sense. But then again, if Ten Hag trusts this player, I'm ready to back him.
Be sure to smash a like on the like button, guys. Got over 600 people watching. 20 likes to go to 150. Let's see if we can get to 200. About 70 likes away from 200. So if you haven't already, click that like button. Be sure to subscribe as well, bottom right-hand corner. Remember, you can join the UV Members Club as well. Links in the video description. You get your badges, your emojis, and your exclusive members-only content. I do want to touch on Alejandro Garnacho this morning before we sort of focus more broadly on club football returning, because it was reported late last night, early this morning from Simon Phillips that Chelsea, and this is from a Chelsea perspective, Chelsea have recently asked the representatives of Alejandro Garnacho about his current situation, and they were informed that Garnacho's intention is, as of now, to re-sign with Manchester United. If he doesn't find an agreement with Manchester United, he wants to move abroad. That's good news to hear, isn't it, Marcel? That's basically, as of right now, his mindset is, I'm going to re-sign with United. It's just getting that deal done. United have plenty of time to get it done because of the way his contract was structured. I think it's 2025, something like that. So there's at least a couple of years left. But ultimately, they want to tie him down long term. He's the next big thing at United. He's the young starlet. And I know, be careful, Owen, don't gas up youngsters too much. I understand that. But he really has, you know, exploded onto the scene this season, right towards the end, right before that World Cup break. And now, I don't think we've spoken enough, Marcel, about how big his impact is actually going to be for the remainder of the season. The cliche that I hate is it's like a new signing, but it really is. Like now, Garnacho's a legitimate, like, how many games should he be starting between now and the end of the season?
Yeah, great point. I mean, in terms of, you know, I was just speaking earlier about it being thick and fast, every 3 days, every 4 days. You need to rotate the squad. And I don't think it's an understatement to say he looks like he will become a fantastic player. You know, big goals and big moments against Fulham in the Europa League, massive goals in literally the last, in Fergie time, this guy's scoring goals, important goals for us to win games, you know, and making important assists as well for McTominay. He's just a fantastic player and a breath of fresh air. That's the only thing. You know, I don't want to taper it and say he's going to become world class. He's going to become one of the best players ever. I'm not going to say that. He needs to prove himself. He needs to continue to be in this form. I think Ten Hag, I think Bruno Fernandes, having these kind of characters, Casemiro around him, I think they're the kind of people that he needs to look around in terms of top pros. And I think they'll keep him grounded. It's just, can he reach that next level? And he'll have to show that throughout the rest of the season. I mean, there's going to be at least, 20 odd games, maybe more than that towards the end of the season now. And he'll be involved in a lot of those. He'll definitely be involved in a lot of those. He's proven that he can be playing in this first team. Even in the preseason friendlies, he's the only one that looked like he was standing out a little bit. You know, we was doing the watch-alongs covering these games. He was only one of the few players really pushing, trying to create something, trying to make something happen. He already looks like a senior player. He looks like he should be training with that first team now. He looks like he should be part of the... When you're looking on the bench now, to your point that you used to say before, Ten Hag will be looking back at the bench and looking, well, there's no quality there for me to bring on. You can give Garnacho 20 minutes, 30 minutes, and see if he'll change something. Ask him to be aggressive on the ball, ask him to be direct, and he can change the outcome of games. I think he just needs to improve a lot more on scoring goals, adding more goals to his game, but he's already doing that. So, and he's young. So it's exciting news. And for other clubs to be wanting him now, that just shows the level. You know, how many other youngsters in world football are really doing what this kid's doing in the Premier League. So it's good signs. It's just, can we keep him? His eyes are maybe already turned for Spain. You know, it's not a homegrown English talent from young, but, you know, Spain could be his dream. So we need to keep him tied down and maybe get his best youth years at Man United, because fantastic player.
I think it's a really good point they make, actually. In those mid-season games that you're talking about against Cadiz and Real Betis, he was playing alongside players at the same age as him, like academy players, and he looked more, I wouldn't say more physical than them, but he looked more suited to senior football than they did. You know, his development in the last just few months alone, the way that when he is playing these games now at first team level, you go, doesn't look out of place. Yeah, he's obviously slight because he's young and maybe he needs to bulk up a little bit and put a little bit of weight on, but he doesn't look super out of place. He looks like a senior player, which I think is really important. And as we've said before, I think that, he's not going to start every game, and he shouldn't start every game. You don't want to burn him out, but I think he's earned the right to start a few more once we're back immediately, because he finished off so well and he's been there over the break and he's been playing well. So I think he does deserve to start those games, but he's not going to start every game between now and the end of the season. But to your point, Ten Hag can now look to his bench and say during games, I know for a fact if I bring him on, he can change the game because he's done it. He's already done it this season. I've brought him on and he's scored. I've brought him on and he's got assists. I've brought him on and he's changed the game. We don't have many players that can do that. We've got a good starting 11, and that's about it. When you make the occasional player, you can look at the bench and go, okay, I can bring him on. He'll do all right. There aren't many. So to have one in Garnacho is a massive, massive bonus. And he is going to be, I think, such a big player for us between now and the end of the season. And I'm just excited to see his development between now and the end of the season. I think he could be a totally different player in the next 6 months. I really do. I think he's only just, really started to build up, and he's nowhere near his peak as well. That's what's incredible too, is he's getting last minute goals. He's nowhere near his peak. How old is he? 17, 18?
17, yeah.
Yeah, it's incredible. I mean, and this is a point, we're talking about number sevens. Kyle says it, Jayton says it. Is he a contender come the end of the season? Could you give that number 7 shirt to Alejandro Garnacho at the end of the season? Is that a possibility?
Well, yes, it is. But it has to. He has to involve what you were saying. He has to be good for the next. He needs to contribute for the rest of the season. If he can contribute for the rest of the season and make a big impact, and it's consistent at that age, 17, consistency, then I think he's definitely in question for it. I would still say maybe you have to earn it. Stay with the number 49 for another season, just to humble yourself. You're 17, 18.
Well, cut it in half. 49's a lot. You know what I mean? A bit lower.
Yeah, true. But I think the 49 right now looks iconic. Stay with that right now. Be humble for another season or two, and if you're consistent for those 2 seasons, why not? And maybe the number 7, unless it's a world-class talent, really needs to be put away for the next 2 seasons. It's been under Cavani, that's not been around. It's been with Ronaldo, which has been a massive saga. We finally got rid of him now. Maybe it needs to be, kept away for a season and a half, 2 seasons. And when the world-class certified baller comes in, a Vlahovic maybe, or somebody of that ilk comes in where it's top quality, you're buying a top player, then maybe they get the number 7. But Garnacho's in there, Sancho's in there, Anthony's in there. And if one of them can really prove themselves to be consistent for the next, a year and a half, definitely to the end of the season, and then consistent for another season, somebody will be taking that shirt. But Garnacho has a claim.
Possibly with Garnacho, it's just a bit too much unnecessary pressure, isn't it? You know what I mean? At this point, you just go, let him develop, or maybe he wants to, maybe like, I want him.
Yeah,
I want him 7.
Yeah, listen, I think he's that kind of player. Ten Hag's been talking about, I need to taper his attitude and his mentality. He was asking questions with, can Garnacho have the World Cup break and still deliver when he comes back? So I'm pretty sure Ten Hag will be using him against Burnley or Forest or Wolves, and asking questions of him. Can you deliver again? You've had the break off. Can you show your quality? Can you affect games for me again? Because that's a young player. Ten Hag now is in a stage where, can he develop players? Can he bring some of these youth academy players through and add them to the team? Because going into the market might deem difficult for the next 6 months. So can you maybe get Zidane to play games? Can you get Garnacho to play games and be effective in them?
Be sure to smash a like on the like button, guys. Be sure to subscribe as well, bottom right-hand corner. We're over 150 likes. We're less than 50 to go to 200. Over 600 people watching. So if you haven't already, click that like button. We can get to 200. Easy. Club football's back. Marcel, the World Cup is over. Club football hath returned. And what is crazy to think, actually, and there will be a preview dropping tomorrow, guys, for the Manchester United-Burnley game. It'll be myself and Marcel once again tomorrow morning. It's crazy to think that the World Cup's over We've got a game in like 72 hours at Old Trafford, Carabao Cup 4th round. It doesn't stop. But what I did want to talk about before we wrap things up this morning when it comes to the return of club football is just what the remainder of this season looks like for Manchester United. Yes, international football's done. Park it there. We've got to focus our heads and our brains and our eyes on what Manchester United can or can't achieve this season. What do you think we can achieve? What has the first half of the season told you? What has this break told you? Where are we going to finish in the league? What can we achieve under Ten Hag? What are your thoughts about United going forward this season?
Well, to start at the beginning of the season, we were all in unanimous decision and agreement. We just want to see good football again. We just want to see good football again. If we remember at where we stood, well, we were dragged through the mud last season. It was horrible. And then come towards the start of the season, we want to see good football. And Ten Hag's earned us the right and earned us the position. The team, the spirit, the fans, especially at home, have earned us this position to at least think top 4, to at least think that we should be in a top 4 race. We should be competing for top 4. And Ten Hag already sent the president when we were talking about, Frankie de Jong. He tried to promise him, listen, next season it's Champions League. That's my ambition. I don't worry about anyone else. The ambition is I want to be in top 4 next season. So that's where I'm trying to push this squad, and he made clever signings, and like to your point earlier, we've got a very good or strong first 11. I would say first 11, maybe 12, 13, but beyond that, it's an issue. So we need to push on and develop from that. And if this good strong 13 players can get us top 4, then they've earned that right till the halfway point. Can they replicate it again at home? That home form's been amazing, especially against the top 6. I think that home form's been serious, and if we can now go to a few away grounds and get draws, pick up some wins against the bigger teams, then I think top 4 definitely has to be the ambition, and I believe we can get that. But that's been credit to how Ten Hag set up this team. That's been credit to the ethos of the team. Players stepping up in big games. Rashford coming from how he was last season. Bruno being consistent, looking like a captain now for the side. And that back four has been serious this season. Some of the best in the league, and I think if we can be consistent, we've got a nice set of games, to be honest with you, Owen, for the next 2 weeks up until mid-January. I think you start to see the Cities and the Liverpools and the Arsenal, but for towards Christmas period, which is always an interesting period in the Premier League anyway, in terms of there being a lot of games. So if we can be consistent in this little period here for the next 2 weeks and pick up maybe 9 points. Teams will be dropping points. It's thick and fast. Before you know it, it's never 3 days, another game. I think some of the top teams will be dropping points here and there. And if we can find consistency, which has been an issue, we've been watching the games in pre-season. Some of the players just don't look ready right now, which is a worry. But if we can be consistent, I think we have a good sign for top 4, maybe even that place. You never know.
It's a strange one with United, because look, we're back to club football. There is no Cristiano Ronaldo anymore. That dynamic is going to be different. I'm not saying for the Ronaldo people come after me. I'm not saying it's better or worse or anything like that. I'm saying it's going to be different. That noise isn't going to be there anymore. And you would think, just in terms of resolving an issue, which was clearly an issue, that will be positive for United. But at the same time, we're a body light. So we do clearly need someone in January to fill that gap. How you replace Cristiano Ronaldo, I don't like the words replace. We need to fill that gap or replace that position, not necessarily the player, but the position. And I think that's going to be key. I do think that if we don't get someone in January, I think it's a really big ask of Erik Ten Hag to get top 4. I think that he's earned the right so far this season to say to the board, I need an attacker. I'm not saying I need the finished article. I need someone. I need someone that can play across the front 3, can fill those gaps. We're still really light up front. I've said so many times this season, every time we've lost or drawn, we need more attacking players. So please give me someone. I understand takeover situation. I understand we overspent in the summer. I understand money, financial fair play, but we need someone. Otherwise, 4th is going to be a really tough ask, because top 2, they seem already finished, don't they? City, Arsenal, in what order? I don't know. But they're pretty much there. 3rd, look, Newcastle's going to be interesting. Can they keep it up this season? Logic would say they're going to go big in January. And if they get in the top 4 next season, we're all in trouble. because they've got Champions League money and they can spend. They've got the money anyway. We could all be in a lot of trouble if Newcastle get in the top 4. So realistically, it's that 4th spot, and you go, look, there's Chelsea, there's Spurs, there's us, and there's Liverpool. 4 going into 1. That's a problem. So just to compete into that 4th spot is going to be difficult. So we need that. We need that attacking player in January. My feeling is I think that Erik ten Hag can do it. I believe in Erik ten Hag. I do believe in this squad of players, but we need more. So I think that's going to be the aim. The problem is you could have said, like, and if it doesn't work out, Europa League route, it's going to be very tough. It's going to be very, very tough because we've got Barcelona, right? So that's going to be challenging too. So I think the focus has to be on that 4th spot. Obviously, look, getting a trophy alongside it would be ideal because we haven't won one in 5 years. But for me, the best thing and the key thing for Ten Hag has to be, how can you set us up in the best way possible for next season? As I've said, looking long term, and we get those new owners in and we get investment in, and the summer we could have if we're in the top 4, we don't want to have one arm tied behind our back when we're like, oh, we've got the money and we've got this sort of infrastructure that's building up, but we can't get these players because we're not in the Champions League. We need to have that, like, for next season to be the big season, the real first step and building block need to be in that top 4. And my feeling is that we could look to this January window as the reason why or why not we didn't get it. That's my feeling on it at the moment. I think it's so important, so key, so critical. But I really do believe in Ten Hag. I know that there's already, and there's always going to be those people like, oh, you know, Ten Hag, what's he ever won and all this kind of stuff. But like I said, I think there's real good reasons to be positive about United, but I think we're entering really critical moments in January as to what we get for the remainder of the season. Where do you think we finish, Marcel?
It's got to be 4th or 5th. Like you said, man, this starts a precedent for the next 3 or 4 years. This is a key moment. You know, what you do now affects that Champions League for next season, and that affects the next seasons, and so on. So it's a key moment here. And if the board get it right, you know, I think it's 4th or 5th. And I believe I want to push for 4th. I'm going to say 4th. I have to be positive. I have to be optimistic about where we can reach. And you've outlaid, you know, it's 4 into 1, like you're saying, but I think we can be the team to do it. You know, I think we can be the team to do it, but we need that reinforcement in January. And if we can get it, then why not? Why can we not get top 4?
No, I agree with you. I think I'm going to put my neck out on the line, and I'm going to say that I think we do get 4th. I think it's going to be really tough. And I think it's going to be a bit like last season in the sense of you're going to have 4 inconsistent big sides that are trying to get into 4th. And it's just going to be the most consistent of an inconsistent bunch that get in. Ultimately, last year, it was Spurs out of an inconsistent bunch that got in, and it wasn't us or Arsenal. I think that's going to be the same because you're looking at, again, those people that are going for those spots. Obviously, United, what's our issue? Consistency. We're not very consistent. You're looking at Liverpool. They've been really inconsistent this season. They've been dropping points. Chelsea, they've been really inconsistent this season, but the feeling is come January, they'll spend big. Graham Potter's first window, they'll go for people. And obviously, look, Spurs have been, I guess, the most consistent out of an inconsistent bunch once again. But you always just get the impression with the Conte thing, like the wheels could fall off at any point. At any point. They're still winning games, but they're playing terribly whilst doing it. How long they can keep that for, I don't know. And look, we are entering really uncharted territory in the sense that we don't know what the World Cup's going to do for January. Like, as you said, Marcel, like we've got a game in 2 days. You know, and the World Cup the Premier League starts up in what, less than a week now, something like that. 26th, you know, starts up in 7 days. So, like, clearly, people that were playing last night, they're not going to be back. Even in the semi-finals, are they going to be back? Probably not. And even those players that are going to be back for those first round of games, what shape are they in? What shape are they in physically, mentally, as well, emotionally? You know, for someone like Harry Kane, how's he going to react? I mean, that's a massive moment for him mentally, missing that penalty. It's huge. You know, how do all of these players react? And it's just going to be something whereby if these players come back and they don't play well, it's going to be pretty easy to point out why, isn't it? You go, the World Cup took it out of them, you know, physically or mentally. And maybe that, you know, the team that reacts best to the World Cup break, you know, whether it's, again, getting those points together or has the squad depth to put results together, are going to be the teams that really get their rewards this season. So All of it's fascinating and all of it's coming back. World Cup is done. International football is parked. Marcel saying we're going to finish 4th. I agree with Marcel, which concerns me. Which is worrying. You can let us know in the live chat and in the comment section below afterwards where we'll finish or where you think we'll finish. Be sure to smash a like on the like button. Be sure to subscribe bottom right hand corner, guys. Remember, you can join the UV Members Club. Links in the video description. It's also the pinned comment in the live chat as well. You get your badges, your emojis, and your exclusive members only content. What's on tap for later today? Flex is going to be dropping a video later today from Qatar. It's going to be a roundup of what he's experienced, I suppose, in the last 6 weeks or so. The United players, what's next, club football returning. So Flex is going to drop in with an update. Tomorrow, myself and Marcel will be back 9 a.m. for a Manchester United versus Burnley preview. And then 24 hours later, I got a game. Carabao Cup at Old Trafford. It comes thick and fast. So be sure to smash a like on the like button. Be sure to subscribe. Bottom right-hand corner. We're out of here. Have a good Monday, and we'll speak to you again soon. Peace.